This symbol, by the way, is known as the universal hexagram of Thelema. The unicursal hexagram of Thelema, excuse me. Unicursal means it is written in one stroke without taking the pen off the page, without taking the pencil off the paper. Okay? It is the joining of the chalice and blade without them overlapping each other and being separate from each other, like one being like there and then the other being there, over top of each other. It is a combining of them in one fluid motion that is like an eternal loop that keeps looping back upon itself in a state of synthesis. And then the 5-petaled rose representing again the 5 elements in nature, including the spirit. Crowley referred to magic, which he spelled with a K, as, quote, the science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the true will. Okay? Now notice that that is different than what I call sorcery. Okay? You're aligning yourself with the will of creation. This clearly distinguishes true magic, or what Crowley referred to as magic with a K, from sorcery, which is, quote, the science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the ego-driven will, lowercase w will, of the practitioner. They're two totally different things. Okay? Influencing something to align to creation's will is entirely different than influencing someone or something to align to my own personal selfish will. Crowley also postulated a notion which he called the holy guardian angel, which referred to a deep connection to the higher self, a connection that would guide the Thelemite initiate toward the true will. In order for the holy guardian angel to manifest in our lives, we must learn to listen to its wisdom by quieting the voice of the ego, the force which is at work when we refuse to admit when we have been wrong, the force which ever seeks to take us off the path of wisdom. And that is why Thelema the tradition of Thelema engages in different meditative practices and in different consciousness alteration techniques in order to quiet the egoic mindset, the voice that is constantly chattering saying, I want, I want, I want, I want. Or, I'm not wrong about that, I'm not wrong about that, I'm not wrong about that. You know, that's the ego, really. That's the force that doesn't allow us to see that what we're doing is wrong when we're doing something that's wrong. And it's the force that just keeps saying, I want this, I want that, and forget about all this other stuff over here about truly becoming a better person and helping other people to become better people. You know, we don't have time for that. I have too many things I want. The central text of Thelema is known as Liber al vel legis. Liber means book, al means related to or of, and legis, vel legis means of the law. So the book of the law, more commonly referred to, the book of the law. Crowley claimed that this book was dictated to him through channeled writing, or what is called automatic writing, by a higher spiritual consciousness which he referred to as I was. So he claimed that this was not his own writing, but it was in fact channeled from some type of an entity. Through the reception of this book, Crowley proclaimed the arrival of a new stage in the spiritual evolution of humanity, which he called the Aeon of Horus, the age when humanity would finally begin to align itself with natural law and the will of creation. Again, the aeon of the rising sun, of the birth of real knowledge, the de-occulting of occult wisdom, and the knowledge of the occult coming online to humanity in the form of common sense, shared wisdom. I don't know how far we've come into the age of the Aeon of Horus. You know, there was kind of an occult renaissance going on during that time, and then it kind of got buried again, and you know, we went into all kinds of wars, and then the technological age came in with the advent of television. You know, and people, you know, got lost in childish sports and, you know, idle distractions. So I'll wrap up with a quote from Crowley. The absolute rule of the state shall be a function of the absolute liberty of each individual will. There it is. You know? Natural law understood in the aggregate is going to create freedom. Natural law and the true will not done in the aggregate is going to equate to the absolute rule of the state, human slavery. Brilliant in his understanding, not so brilliant in the way he conducted his life, particularly in his later years. Last aspect of occultism I want to touch on is dark occultism. I'm not going to belabor this too long. I just want to really talk about who are these people that I refer to as the dark occultists. You can call them a million different names, folks. Doesn't matter what you call them. You can call them sorcerers. You can call them dark Luciferians, those who have the light and use it for dark purposes. They are Satanists, okay? They are Setians. They are the Klipotic Kabbalists. Klipoth is the region below the tree of life that is the hell world in the Kabbalistic tradition, that is the inversion of all the true teachings of Kabbalah, of the true moral lessons of the true tradition, esoteric tradition of Kabbalah. If you descend into the Klipotic realms, it's the wastelands, the lands of the spent and corrupted souls that are simply husks, that used to be souls and spirits that are just like, withered out husks, the wastelands, in other words. That's Klipotic Kabbalah. They are the dark masons of the world. They are the dark Atonists. Aton was a variation of the sun or the light in the ancient Comitian tradition. Ultimately, it's all one cult, folks. It's the cult of the black sun. You could call them by any name you want, but they are a dark solar cult. Okay? When I say the dark sun, why the black or the dark sun? The sun represents light. It represents knowledge. It represents empowerment. It represents life. The antithesis of that, the total polar inversion of that, is it's still a form of light. It's still the sun, but it has darkness within it. So it's knowledge being used for all the wrong reasons. Knowledge being used to control, not enlighten, not uplift. Knowledge being used to put people in a prison. Knowledge being used as a power differential over people who are still in a level of ignorance. So you're blinding people with that light, and you're enslaving them with it, with that knowledge. That's what these people are. Okay? If you don't even want to look at it in esoteric terms, they're people with the knowledge of how the self works, meaning deep psychology, very ancient, deep knowledge of psychology, combined with people who know about how the laws of nature function, which is very deep, hidden science. That's it. There are the two sciences that are at work. The physical sciences combined with psychology. And then you put the understanding of how moral law functions into there, which they know as well, and rebel against because they want to be gods on earth and they want to conquer the natural law consequences or evade them to the longest amount of time that they possibly can. They're all the same cult. It doesn't make a difference who we're talking about here. You could be talking about Satanists, Setians, the worshippers of the great owl at Bohemian Grove, the Skull and Bones Order of Death, the cult of the Black Sun that came out of the Nazi and SS party of Germany. All right, in the modern day, they're top-level international bankers, top-level political figures, top-level financiers, high-level religionists, high-level members of royalty, so-called royal families, judiciary, military, high-level military, people involved at highest levels of media, highest levels of medicine, highest levels of education. Again, highest levels of all religious systems on the earth, and anybody's religion out there is not exempt from that. So-called cultural religions. Secret societies and fraternal orders, think tanks, intelligence agencies, you name it. This is where the highest concentration of dark occultists are at. This is who they are. This is how they operate in the world. These are the institutions who determine how people's lives will be run, because we let them. And at the top level of every one of these institutions, you're going to find the cult of the Black Sun operating. Helena Blavatsky, the main teacher of the occult philosophy known as Theosophy, tried to warn people about these sorcerers, about this dark solar cult. In her third volume of The Secret Doctrine, she wrote this. And again, Blavatsky gets a bad name like Crowley, and they want to just throw all of her works out. And say, oh, there's no wisdom in any of her work because that's the occult and that's bad. You know, people who have never read her work will make statements like this. She said, for the true student of occult lore, white or divine magic could no more exist in nature without its counterpart black magic than day without night. Everything in that nature has an occult, a bright and a night side to it. True, magic has lost its name, and along with it, its rights to recognition. But its practice is in daily use. The real truth is that magic is still in full sway amidst mankind, however blind the latter to its silent presence and influence on its members, however ignorant society may be and remain to its daily and hourly beneficent and maleficent effects. Again, the light and the dark side to the occult. The world is full of such unconscious magicians. She's saying even some of the people involved in these institutions use their influence and don't really know that they're employing occult strategies in many cases. They're just using that knowledge. The world is full of such unconscious magicians in politics as well as in daily life, in the church as in the strongholds of free thought. Most of those magicians are, quote, sorcerers, unhappily. Not metaphorically, but in sober reality, by reason of their inherent selfishness. Again, my will be done. Okay? Their revengeful natures, their envy, and their malice. The true student of magic, well aware of the truth, looks on in pity, and if he be wise, keeps silent. Again, I don't agree with that philosophy. Okay? I don't agree with that ideology. I think we need to speak up more than ever regarding this, not keep silent about it. Again, I could present people who I have a great deal of respect for, and I don't have to agree with every single thing that they say. I could still have tremendous amount of respect for what they did get right and for the work that they did share. For every effort made by him to remove the universal cecity, which means blindness, is only repaid with ingratitude, slander, and often curses. Lies and calumny become his lot, and thus the well-wisher is soon torn to pieces as a reward for his benevolent desire to enlighten. And you know what I say? Damn it to hell, so be it. It doesn't matter what people make of it. It doesn't matter whether they don't want to take the wisdom. It doesn't matter whether they don't want to take the knowledge. I'm going to speak it anyway. That's what's going to happen. You know, and that's the level of courage and will that people need to step into. Which, sadly, I don't feel Blavatsky fully made it to. As many occultists didn't. And again, like I said at the beginning of the seminar, how many occult teachers are actually doing this, who claim that they're really knowledgeable of the occult? How many of them are out there sharing that knowledge with people, even in a rudimentary, cursory, introductory sort of way? Hardly any, a paltry number. You could probably count them on one hand. All right, let's move into some breakdowns of occult symbolism, which I think people should enjoy. Occult symbolism is a secret language hidden in plain sight. Symbols are all around us. They're in just about every walk of life that we engage in. From business to shopping to advertising to on the products that we use on a day-to-day basis, everywhere. I've been using them throughout this presentation, to communicate messages in subtle ways, to correspond and correlate ideas. But people say, hey, why do we need to look at symbolism and interpret them and try to understand what symbols mean? Isn't that a big waste of time? You hear this again. The people who say this is all insignificant, again, over and over again, these people are the people who think it's just a political problem. All right? We just have to analyze what's going on in politics, find the right people for the position, the world's going to be fine. It's just we need some reform in government, that's all. And it's not slavery, you know. We just need to reform that financial system. If we just get control over coining the money again, it's going to be hunky-dory, you know. These are the people who would mock and ridicule the study of symbolism entirely. Semiotics, you know. They would say, you don't need to look into symbolism or break it down or try to understand what it means. It's all meaningless. It's just what one person says. It's their interpretation. And I agree. There are interpretations of symbolism, and not all symbolism means one thing. It can have many different interpretations. What I want to help people to understand is what's really being conveyed, being spoken. There's an energetic vibration that goes along with symbols. That's why they call it a symbol. It resonates something. It rings something. It sends out a vibration into human consciousness. And if you don't understand what that symbol, the frequency that resonates at because of its pure form, you're getting hit with that frequency, you're getting hit with that message, and you don't even understand what's being said to you. It's a form of illiteracy. It would be like me literally speaking another language that none of you understood to a person in the room, and I could talk about all of you behind your back without your knowledge. Well, that's what's being done through symbolism. And this is done through the use of archetypes. Archetypes are an archetype is an original pattern or model from which all things of that same kind are copied or on which they are all based. So an archetype is a model or a first form. It could be seen as a prototype of something, a first thing, but then you pattern something later on, or you build upon or expand on later. So I've just put 5 basic archetypes here. There's many of them. I mean, we could look at the archetype of the lightning bolt, the diamond, the simple rudimentary fish, the simple wave pattern. You can go on and on forever just on archetypes. These are 5 real simple ones. I just wanted to give you a general idea of what some of these could be used to communicate. A circle. It's considered the perfect shape. It represents eternity because there's no beginning and no end. It represents wholeness or completeness. It represents perfection, fluidity, completeness, the divine. It's the shape that generally is used to represent God or divinity. Conversely, the square is the seeming opposite. It has rough edges. It's very rigid. 90-degree angles, not really found in nature. It represents stability, however. It represents groundedness, earthliness, rigidity, imperfections, base consciousness, earthly nature. Very simply conveyed in a shape, especially when we compare the two against each other, and you could see the inherent differentiation between them. The triangle, as the simplest enclosed form, it represents balance, synthesis, coming together of opposites, union, sharpness, intellect, etc. Again, that symbol, the blade, represented the intellect, represented the masculine quality of consciousness in many ancient traditions. The star represents spirit, sovereignty, achievement, openness, oneness. Hey, you give school children stars in school, achievement. Openness and oneness because it represents the human form outstretched. The cross, an ancient symbol of power and authority, strength, focus, and willpower. That's why authoritarians often use it in many different forms. These are the basic forms on which symbolism is based. These are basic vibrations. You can look at these as the small mouth noises that then eventually form words and then whole sentences and whole communicated traditions of meaning, which is what symbolism is about.